Wam, Shalom. Before I start, I want to give all honors and glories and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Mahabakakodash, Yahweh, which is the one true name of the Heavenly Father, Yahushai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, but his one only true name is Yahushai, Bahashem, meaning coming in the name, Ba means coming in, Ha means the, Shah means name, Rakah meaning spirit, Kodash meaning holy. Double honors to Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai, and double honors to the elders and the apostles and bishops of Great Millstone who will well and teach well, because those are the men who I learned this truth from through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai. Peace, blessings, salutations to the hopeful elect, and shalom to you sincere brothers that are scattered abroad, pushing forth this word in truth and sincerity. And shalom to you sincere sisters that's listening in silence as the scriptures command you to do so. I am the brother Mashiach Harazakah. And pretty much we're going to go into Apostle Paul. And this lesson is going to be titled as Apostle Paul was not a heathen. He was an Israelite. Apostle Paul was not a heathen. He was an Israelite. Because you got people, they'll read Acts, the 22nd chapter. And when he was in prison, he told a centurion Roman soldier that he was a Roman. But, people fail to realize when they read that there, he was saying that he was a Roman citizen. That was not his nationality. He lived in the city of... Actually, he was born in the city of Rome, right? He was born in the city of Rome, okay? He was born a Roman citizen, okay? But he was born in this, I think in the area of Tarshish, the city of Tarshish or Sicilia, which that's in Asia Minor, which is now known as Turkey today. But he was born a Roman citizen. And we're going to prove that in this lesson. So he was not a heathen. His nationality was not a Roman. Okay, he was a Roman citizen, but he wasn't a Roman. Okay, the Romans were Edomites. Okay, Apostle Paul, he was a Roman citizen. He was an Israelite of the line of Benjamin. Okay, he was an Israelite. So we're going to prove that in this lesson today. And Lord willing, this lesson is edifying. Okay. So people read these scriptures right here, the Christians do, and they'll say, "See, Apostle Paul, he was a natural Gentile. He was a natural heathen because he said he was a Roman here. Yeah, he was a Roman citizen, and we can prove that too. We're gonna go into Google. We're gonna look up some stuff in this lesson. It says Acts 22 and 25. It says, and as they bound him with thongs, right? It says Paul said unto the centurion that stood by, it is lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman and uncondemned. Verse 26. When the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain, saying, Take heed what thou doest, for this man is a Roman. Talking about Apostle Paul. He was telling them that he was a Roman citizen. It wasn't meaning that he was a natural heathen. He was an Israelite. And we're going to prove that in this lesson. Verse 27, it says, Then the chief captain came and said unto him, Tell me, art thou a Roman? And he said, Yeah. He said, Yea. So, yeah. He said he's a Roman, meaning he's a Roman citizen. Right? Verse 28, it says, And the chief captain answered, With a great sum obtained I this freedom. And Paul said, But I was free born. Okay, because he was born a Roman citizen. Okay, he was born a Roman citizen. That's why he said, "But I was free born," because he was born a Roman citizen, and we gonna get that too. Verse 29, it says, "The straight way they departed from him, which should have examined him." Right, and the chief captain also was afraid after he knew that he was a Roman, and because he had bond him. Right, now check this out. We're gonna prove that in this lesson that he was a Roman citizen by birth. Apostle Paul. It says Paul was likely born between 5 years of BC and 5 AD. The Acts of Apostle Paul indicates that Paul was a Roman citizen by birth. See, he was a Roman citizen by birth. Okay, so he was not a heathen, a natural heathen. He was an Israelite born a Roman citizen. Now, the place that he was born at, which we can get right here, It says was Apostle Paul born in Rome. It says his birthplace Tarshish. It says was a major city in the eastern Sicilia, right? It says a region that had been made part of the Roman province of Syria by the time of Apostle Paul's adulthood. You see that? So that place Tarshish, right, which is the city in eastern Sicilia, right, is pretty much made part of the province of Rome. Okay? So he was born a Roman citizen. Now Tarshish today, which I want to show you, is Turkey, which if you go back in the time of before Turkey, it was let me show you, so I don't want to say the wrong thing. It was Asia Minor, but now today it is known as Turkey. Okay, and I just wanted to show that. Okay, so it's known as Turkey today. So this is where Apostle Paul was born. Okay, he was born in Tarshish, okay, which is a major city in the eastern Sicilia. So let's read that again. His birthplace, Tarshish, was a major city in eastern Sicilia, a region that had been made part of the Roman province, right, province of Syria by the time of his adulthood. Okay, so Apostle Paul, he was an Israelite of the flesh, but he was a Roman citizen. Okay, he was born a Roman citizen, right? And we proved that. So now that we read Acts 22 verse all the way down to 29, okay, when he said he was a Roman, he was meaning he was a Roman citizen. Now we're going to prove to you that he was an Israelite. This is Philippians 3 and 5. It says, circumcised the 8th day of the stock of Israel of the tribe of Benjamin, because Apostle Paul was of the tribe of Benjamin, which we're going to get out. He was an Israelite. It says, and Hebrew of the Hebrews. You see that? As touching the law of Pharisee. He was raised and born in the house of the Pharisees. Okay? So he was an Israelite. He was of the tribe of Benjamin, and he was raised in the house of the Pharisees. Okay, he was a Roman citizen, but he was a Pharisee. Okay, and one of his high-ranking mentors was Gamaliel, one of the highest-ranking elders in the Pharisees. So Apostle Paul, he was a tribe of Benjamin, right? It says as touching the law, a Pharisee. He was a Pharisee. Okay, he was a Pharisee. This is Acts 22 verse 1. We're going to read to verse 3. It says, my brethren and fathers, hear ye my defense, which I make known unto you. Right? It says, and when they heard that he spake in the Hebrew tongue to them, because Apostle Paul, he could speak Hebrew. He could speak Hebrew, he could speak Greek, he could speak many different languages. It says, and when they heard that he spake in the Hebrew, right, in the Hebrew tongue to them, they kept the more silence, and he saith, verse 3, I am verily a man which am a Jew. See, he was an Israelite. He said he was a Roman. He was a Roman citizen, but he was an Israelite. It says born in Tarshish, which we showed you where Tarshish is. Tarshish is the city of Sicilia, which was Asia Minor, which is now Turkey now. Okay, right? It says born in Tarshish, a city in Sicilia. It says yet brought up in this city at the feet of Gamaliel. You see that? Because Gamaliel was Apostle Paul's mentor, right? It says, and taught according to the perfect manner of the law of the fathers, and was zealous towards the Most High, as ye all are this day. You see that? So Apostle Paul, he was an Israelite. He just said he was a Hebrew. He spoke in Hebrew. He said he's a Jew born in Tarshish. He gave them all of that information. So that's when he was at the council too. So he was telling them that he was an Israelite. Okay? He was telling them that he was an Israelite. Romans 11 and 1. I say then, have the Most High cast away his people? God forbid. Meaning, no, the Lord has not cast away his people. It says, "For I also am an Israelite." Apostle Paul. This is what he said. I also am an Israelite, right? Of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. So Apostle Paul, he was an Israelite. He was not a heathen. He was not a natural Gentile, as the Christian world believes. He was an Israelite of the flesh. Okay? He was an Israelite of the flesh, right? He was a Greek speaking Jew, right? Let me show you that. Thought I had it here. Let me go back. Slovakia. See, Paul was a Roman citizen, right? It says, was Apostle Paul Greek or Roman? It says Paul was a Greek speaking Jew, which that goes back to, we can go to Acts 6 and 1, right? Which I can get right now. See that? It says Paul was a Greek speaking Jew from Asia Minor. Didn't I tell you that? Asia Minor was what it was called, and then it Asia Minor today, Asia Minor in the ancient world was what it was. It was Asia Minor. But now it's Turkey today. And that's where he was born. It says Paul was a Greek-speaking Jew from Asia Minor, right? It says his birthplace, Tarshish, was a major city in eastern Sicilia, a region that had been made part of the Roman province of Syria by the time of his adulthood. So there you go. Apostle Paul, he was an Israelite of the flesh. He was a Greek speaking Jew. He can speak different languages. The Lord gave him the gift. He had the gift of able to speak different languages. He wasn't just speaking Hebrew. He was able to speak Greek. He was speaking Hebrew. He was able to speak different languages, right? And I'm gonna prove that about that Greek speaking Jew, because you had Israelites during the time of the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire, Slovakia. During the time, during the time of the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, you had Israelites. They were Hellenized. They were speaking Greek, dressing Greek. They were in the ways of the Greeks. They were cast out as heathens. Okay, so you had Israelites that went from having Hebrew names and speaking Hebrew to taking on Greek and Roman names. And they were speaking Greek and they were speaking Romans. But you had Israelites, they were Israelites of the flesh, they were Hellenized. So they went from having Israelite names to taking on Greek and Roman names. And we're going to show you that in Acts 6 and 1, the main point. It says, Acts 6 and 1, in those days when the number of the disciples were multiplied, there arose a murmuring of Grecians against the Hebrews because their widows were neglected in the daily ministration. Now, when you go into that word Grecian there, it goes into the Greek word, I think it's G1675 or 1674. I believe it's 1675. Yep. G1675, which is Hellenistes. That's the Greek word of saying Grecian, which is Hellenistes. Now, when you go into the English translation of it, it goes into Hellenist, right? It says Hellenistes, right? A Hellenist, one who imitates the manner and customs or the worship of the Greeks and use the Greek tongue. So you had Israelites that were born in foreign lands speaking Greek, dressing Greek. They were in the ways of the Greeks. So you had Israelites that took on from having Hebrew names to taking on Greek and Roman names. They literally became Hellenized. Okay, during the time of Antiochus the Fourth Epiphanes, which you can read about, which was the second Maccabees, the 6th chapter. Right, the Israelites, they were Hellenized. Okay, they couldn't keep their ceremonial traditions. They couldn't keep the laws. They couldn't circumcise their children. They couldn't keep the Sabbaths. They couldn't do any of those things. If they were caught doing that, they were executed and put to death. When you read about Antiochus the Fourth Epiphanes, okay, it says one who imitates the manners and the customs or the worship of the Greeks and use the Greek tongue. B, it says used in the New Testament of Jews born in foreign land and speaking Greek. So you had Israelites out there, they were speaking Greek, dressing Greek, they're in the ways of the Greeks. See? So Apostle Paul, he was able to speak different languages. He had that ability. Okay, it says Hellenistes, from a derivative of G1672, a Hellenist or Greek-speaking Jew. There you go. So when you go right here, Paul was, it says, was Apostle Paul Greek or Roman? Apostle Paul, it says Paul was a Greek-speaking Jew. So there you go. That's why he was able to go to those regions. That's why he written those epistles to those Israelites. When you go read the book of Rome, those are Israelites in Rome. When you hear about Acts and you go into First Corinthians, Second Corinthians, Thessalonians, this Corinthians, those are Israelites that were called Corinthians because they lived in the city of Corinth. Corinth is an ancient city. Anybody can Google that. So when you see those letters, Ephesians, which you go to, it's called Ephesus, which is Ephesians, because you had Israelites that were called Ephesians because they lived in the city of Ephesus. Okay, so when you look at those letters, those are written to those foreigner Israelites because they were speaking Greek and they were dressing Greek. So when Apostle Paul written those letters, you read Romans, First Thessalonians, you go into Titus, right? When you read Titus 1, it talks about the citizens of Crete, right? They went to the city of Crete, and you had Cretans there. Those Cretans were Israelite foreigners. So you had Israelites that were scattered through all of those regions, and the Lord set up Apostle Paul to go to those Israelites that were called Gentiles, because they were Hellenized. They were speaking. You had Israelites speaking different languages. So, enough with that. Getting back to the main point. So now you know that Apostle Paul, and we're gonna read. We're gonna go back to Acts 22, because that's where I want to go. Acts 22, and we're gonna start at verse 25. So now we know that Apostle Paul, and actually I'll start at verse 24. And we're going to read down to verse 29. Because now you know that Apostle Paul was an Israelite of the flesh, but he was born a Roman citizen. Okay? He was not a natural heathen, a natural Gentile. He was an Israelite. And we proved it all through that. We proved it. We went on Google, we searched, we gave you the regions where he was born, right? Etc. Acts 22:24. The chief captain commanded him to be brought into the castle, right? And bade that he should be examined by scourging, that he might know wherefore they cried so against him. And as they bound him with thongs, Paul said unto the centurion that stood by, Is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman citizen? And we proved that. And uncondemned. Verse 26. When the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain, saying, Take heed what thou doest, for this man is a Roman citizen. Right? Verse 27. Then the chief captain came and said unto him, Tell me, art thou a Roman? He said, Yeah. He's a Roman citizen. Right? You can read that again. He said he was a Roman citizen. Let me see if I can go back. Right? Let's get that. Right? Just ratification. It says, Paul was likely born between the years of 5 BC and AD. The Acts of the Apostles indicates that Paul was a Roman citizen by birth. There you go. A Roman citizen by birth. He was not a natural Gentile. He was not a heathen. He was an Israelite. That's why he said thou art Roman. He's a Roman citizen. He said, yeah, yea. Right? Verse 28. It says, and the chief captain answered, with a great sum obtained, I this freedom. And Paul said, but I was freeborn, meaning he was born a Roman citizen. That's what that's meaning, right? He was born a Roman citizen. That's why he said that. I was freeborn. He was born a Roman citizen, right? It says right there, indicates that Paul was a Roman citizen by birth. He was born a Roman citizen. See that? Verse 29. Then straightway they departed from him, which should have examined him. And the chief captain also was afraid, after he knew that he was a Roman, and because he had bound him, he was a Roman citizen. Apostle Paul, he was an Israelite, right? So there you go. Apostle Paul, he was a Roman citizen. When you read those scriptures there in Acts the 22nd chapter, he was telling them that he was a Roman citizen, not a natural Roman. He wasn't a heathen. He wasn't a natural heathen. He was an Israelite. Okay? He was a Roman citizen. He was born a Roman citizen. That's what he was saying. Just like today, we're in a revival of the Roman Empire. We're Israelites, right? We're called, well, we ain't called Israelites in this society. We're called what? American citizens, right? Because we're born in this place called America. We're American citizens, but we're Israelites of the flesh, though. The so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, we're Israelites, but we're not called Israelites here. We're called what? American citizens, which is the revival of the Roman Empire, which is that divided kingdoms, which is that iron and clay, okay? Which is the revival of the Roman Empire. So there you go. Apostle Paul, he was not a heathen, a natural heathen, okay? He was not a natural Gentile, because you got two types of Gentiles. You got Israelite foreigners, and you have heathens that are not of Israelite descent. So be aware of that. Apostle Paul, he was an Israelite. He was not a natural heathen, a natural Gentile. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. On to the next one. Shalom.